Hey guys, welcome back to our first YouTube video in quite a while. We've been taking a break just so we can focus on orders and kind of rethink how we want to do this going forward in the future. So we want to kick off this new appearance to YouTube with a shop tour. We haven't done a shop tour in quite a while. So let me take you through the shop because it has changed a ton since the last tour. We can start off in the forging room. So this room is 45 by 35 and all of our hot work is done in here. So we have 2 power hammers, 2 hydraulic presses, and 3 mechanical OBI presses. Our forge, hammers, anvils, swage blocks, tongs, vices, stuff like that. We do use each of these machines for different tasks. Each machine has its specific skill set and advantage over other machines. So we incorporate all of them to get the best out of them and make the whole process go smoother. We use these machines so that it saves our body, so it's not so physically difficult on us. All of the forging that's done on these machines is all what's called open die forging. So it's not predetermined whatsoever. It's not like a top and bottom mold that comes down and it pops out an axe, which is what closed die forging is, drop forging and stuff like that. So all of our stuff is open die forging, which is completely dependent on the operator placing the steel in the right area, moving it at the right speed, hammering it with the right force and all that sort of stuff. So we use all these machines to just help us meet the demand that we need to, which we still don't even come close to doing here because of the way that, it's handmade. We can't speed it up any faster. So over here is the Nasal power hammer. This is a 250 pound ram. It's a Nasal 3B. And the Nasal power hammers are considered by a lot of different blacksmiths to be like the Cadillac of power hammers, the best power hammers that were ever made. This was made in the 1920s and they supposedly have not gotten better since then. So this is our big old power hammer that is not set up for production right now because we need to set up a foundation for it. So we'll come out with a video down the road whenever we do that, set it up. So we're not really using it right now. It's off in the corner. Right now we use this 165 pound hammer. It's about half the size as the Nasal. And these punch presses work well for forging too. So we also do grinding while we're forging on this Snag Grinder. All of it is done while the axe is still hot. So I had been trying to find something that would grind more aggressively than a 24 grit belt and grind more aggressively than those big stone cup wheels on angle grinders. And the only thing that I've been able to find is what's called a Snag Grinder. The Snag Grinder is a 30-inch diameter stone wheel that has a 30 horsepower motor behind it that spins at almost 13,000 surface feet per minute, which is screaming. So we use this while the axes are still hot. We hold the axe with tongs and we grind off excess material while we're forging. That's what that machine does. Over here we get away from our forging. However, this is still in the forge room. So this is our heat treating area. We have 2 ovens. I need to get a 3rd oven soon because we're starting to make more axes at a time now. And this is where we do all the normalizing, all the quenching, hardening, stuff like that. We've got a fume extractor, our big quench tank, and our heat treating oven. So we can hook up this fume extractor right over top of the quench tank, and then we don't have to wear respirators anymore, which is great. In the opposite corner, we've got an old parts washer. So a parts washer is used a lot of times by mechanics, and it is basically a giant industrial dishwasher. So it has a heater in it that heats up the water. You put a special detergent in the water that strips oil off of things. You put it in on a rotating carousel and that strips the oil off of the axes after heat treat. So they get heat treated, they get covered in oil, obviously. We load them all up in the parts washer, cleans the axes free from the oil. That saves us a ton of time. That's a neat machine. And next to it is our big hydraulic bandsaw, air over hydraulic bandsaw. We use this not for axe production at all, but for making our own tooling or making projects around the shop, which we do really frequently. So this has all auto up, down, auto clamp, auto release, coolant, pump reservoir, all that cool stuff. So this is a sweet old bandsaw. Now we're moving to the woodshop part of the entire building. This room is, I don't know what the size of this room is. It's pretty big. This is all the woodworking. So axe handles and eventually knife handles too. We're not getting into knife production quite yet, but we will be. We've got plans for that. So right now it's mainly just axe handles. So we got the rough sawn boards of lumber that sit on this big wood rack. We take that down, we mark the axe handles on there, cut them out, make the axe handles, and I'm going to show you some of the machines that we use to make the axe handles. This is one of my favorite tools in the shop out of all of the tools that I have. It's probably in the top 4. So this is a Moke Bandsaw. So that wheel is hooked up straight to the shaft of the motor. You can't stall this machine out. It is just, it just does not care. So we can put up big boards of lumber on here and just rip through them all day long without having to worry about your blade really wearing out quickly or slowing down through boards of lumber or any of that. And the large work area too allows us to stack things on here after we cut them and do stuff like that. So this is an awesome tool. The motor is like it looks like R2-D2. Show them that motor, Jacob. It's like looks like someone hooked R2-D2 up to the back of this bandsaw. That's a cool tool. Here we have our arbor presses. These are really neat tools also in the wood shop. This is a 6-ton arbor press and this is a 12-ton arbor press. Arbor presses are extremely common tools in shops. Normally though you see them, they're about this big. They sit on benches. In this case we use these, they're much larger, and we use these to press the axe handles into the axe heads. So these go up and down. We've got a big lever on them, so you can get a lot of leverage on there and press the axe handles in. These are actually more than enough power to do that. You can snap an axe handle in half on these if you're not careful. Here's the back part of the wood shop, and this is kind of vacant right now. We are going to be using all of this table space here for our knife making production area down the road. Right now, not really getting used for axe making at all. And now we're going to move into the machine shop area. This is the largest room in the shop. It's kind of, there's no walls to it, so it kind of just joins into the back part of the shop too. So this area of the shop is where we will do grinding for axes, knives, any type of grinding for anything. And then also we have a machining section with drills, mills, lathes, all sorts of stuff like that. So let me show you that. Over here in this back corner, we've got our belt rack. This has all the different belts that we use for axe making, knife making, whatever. And our mega grinder, which is a 25 horsepower belt grinder that has a belt that's 3 foot wide and 12 foot long. We use this for rough grinding axes after they're normalized before we quench them. And Nathan and I will both grind at the same time on this grinder, one on either side of that belt. So it's really efficient. 2 people can be grinding on one grinder. Over here we've got our finishing grinders. Over here we've got our finishing grinders. These are 2x72 belt grinders from Wilmot Grinders. It is a top of the line belt grinder. So for knife making, these are like one of the best grinders you could get. We use them for axe making for our sharpening, not really for our rough grinding. We save that for the snag grinder and that giant belt grinder. So we do all of our sharpening on here and finish work and fine work. These are all variable speed. They're really smooth, hold tracking really well, and extremely versatile machines. These are our knife bevel grinders. So those of you who are in the knife making world, you may be familiar with Daniel Winkler knives or Winkler knives. These machines came out of his shop. He's only like 45 minutes from me, and he's a pretty large knife maker. And these are the machines that they use to grind all of their production knives for years and years. And I was able to get a hold of them after he upgraded to a new machine. So these machines will rough grind the bevel on most knife shapes. And then we take it and do the finish grinding on the 2x72 Wilmot grinders. So these have big stone wheels and they follow a pattern. So we aren't using these yet, but this is what we're going to use when we start getting into more of a production. So we aren't really using these yet, but this is what we're going to use when we get into more of a production knife schedule and start coming out with more knife lines. Here are our surface grinders. We've got a smaller grinder that has been converted to belt. So converting to belt has its advantages and disadvantages. The main advantage is that it is faster to change the grits. You have the ability to hog off material faster. So if you're trying to take scale off of forged pieces, it's great for that. However, it's not great for extreme accuracy. It's an abrasive belt on a rubber wheel. So it's not going to hold tolerances super, super tight. But for most of what we need, it is perfectly accurate enough. And I have a larger surface grinder here that is made in Germany. It is all auto hydraulic everything. You can set it, run it, walk away from it. It'll grind for you. And we're leaving the stone wheel on that. So this is what we're going to use for our more accurate grinding. It's a much heavier machine, just better all around. It's made in Germany. What else can you say? So this area of the machining shop is the drill line. This is where we do drilling for dies, custom projects in the shop, and knife making. We really don't do any drilling for axe making at all in the heads. So these don't get used for that, but they do get used very, very frequently because we're constantly making dies for the machines that make the axes. So we're doing custom projects all the time like that for drilling and steel. Each of these drill presses do a slightly different thing. This is an Edlund drill press. It is an absolute beast. It's a top of the line drill press. It has a lot of really neat features to it, and it is just a tank. It's unbreakable. So this is what we use for drilling big holes and just your overall regular drill press, because it's extremely versatile as well, even though it's so large. Over here is the triple head, ultra high precision, sensitive touch drill press, made for extreme accuracy, extreme high speeds. This drill press is only for small drill bits because it will reach 12,000 RPM if you want it to. And we've got a couple other drill presses down there. We've got a single head, ultra high precision drill press that does the same thing as this triple, but fewer speeds on it, and obviously it's just a one head, so it's not as ideal for production. And then we've got a larger Walker Turner floor model drill press, which does a similar thing to this one, just not as versatile and not as big. Okay. Right here is our bigger main piece of granite that we use for layout when we need more space to lay stuff out, or if I want a more accurate, cleaner surface to do layout on. This is what we use. This was certified to 5 millionths of an inch across the top. It hasn't been certified in quite a few years, so it might not hold those tolerances anymore. But this is a very expensive granite that we use as our main granite layout table. Here's one of our workbenches that sits in the machine shop. It has a Rockwell tester on it, so if we want to test the Rockwell hardness on anything that is flat, we can do so right here. Just a cheap little granite table that we use for quick layout, nothing super accurate, and a really nice workbench with a 2-inch thick maple laminate top and brass and steel drawers. You'll notice these workbenches were also in the wood shop, except much larger ones surrounding the walls, and then we've also got some in other parts of the shop. These are antique workbenches that came out of an old TVA power plant workshop that we restored. So they're working out great for us.
Mr. Gorton.
Mr. Gorton. All right, yeah, you want to talk about Mr. Gorton?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Over here we've got the milling machine. We have a very simple milling machine, but a super rock solid, extremely well built milling machine. This is a Gorton Mill. Gorton is known for being built to a very high quality much better than a Bridgeport, but not as versatile as a Bridgeport. So this is our kind of like our tool and die custom milling machine that we use. Like I've said on the surface grinder, just for those drills, we use these machines to make dies, which we are doing constantly. So you can do all your custom milling here. We also use this as a drill sometimes. We'll put a chuck in it and drill in it, but not very frequently. So this is a really great mill for us. Mr. Handy. This right here is Mr. Handy. It is a tool and gauge maker's lathe, which is it's a small, very accurate lathe. So this is perfect for our setup because we are using this for, well, tool and die making and repairing tools on other tools that we have. And then also we use it for knife making and stuff like that. It's very smooth, precise, fast, and small enough to where it's not a bear to work with. So this is a beautiful piece of machinery that just works great for us. So that pretty much sums up the machine shop area of our building. So if you haven't noticed by now, as I've been taking you through the shop and the different tools that we use for both axe production, knife production, and then making our own tooling for ourselves, is that a lot of the machines that we use are all older machines made anywhere from the 19-teens to 1980s are some of our newest tools. And we are going to put out a video just for that, where I can tell you, the history of these machines, why I choose these types of tools over newer types of tools, the philosophy behind that, and all the advantages and disadvantages, stuff like that. So check back for the future because we are going to be doing that type of video down the road. Here's our leatherworking part of the shop because we do all of the sheaths in-house, and we also want to start making other types of leatherworking products when we get more caught up, so that we're not just making axe sheaths. I'm going to take you through this area to show you the different tools that we use. Start with this right here, which is our big layout table. We'll put a sheet of leather down and use this to do custom cutting and assembly and stuff like that. It's just a big sturdy wood table with rubber on top for cutting on. Right here is the main desk that gets used for the leatherworking. This is another one of those TVA power plant workbenches. That one's locked. That one's not. So these are just, we really like these benches. They work great for us. Put up this pegboard for hanging sheaths up, and we got a little drill press here for drilling leather. Here are axes, which are getting sheaths made for them currently. These are all the craft carvers, which we just finished up in a big batch. This little press is called a kick press. It's made by the same company that made the 6-ton Arbor Press that we have in the Woodshop. So this is actuated by a foot pedal, which brings that ram down. And inside of this, you can insert different types of punches and dies to do different stuff. So we use this for leatherworking, for punching, stamping, different stuff like that. It's very simple, nice old punching tool. And that's Vigo. And this is one of our spare anvils, which is counterweighting the massive amount of axes on the other side of that wall. This machine is called a clicker press. It is in the leather shop, and it's used to stamp out patterns in leather. So it's works off of hydraulics. This ram moves up and down. You can put your sheet of leather in here, and then you put a die on there, which kind of looks like a cookie cutter. It'll have welts or the shape of an entire sheath. And you put that in there, and this stamps out the sheath, and then it needs to be, of course, put together, glued, sewed, riveted, burnished, dyed, all that sort of stuff to make the sheath complete. So we're just starting to use this a little bit more. We still really don't use this machine yet because we're working on dialing in our forging more, and grinding, so that it's more consistent enough to where we can use this more regularly. This is the lounge area of the shop. This is where you can go to take a break. We have meetings here. You can play pool if you want, hang out, whatever. This is a very inconspicuous. This is our very inconspicuous liquor cabinet. We're still working on filling it up because it's kind of new, but to an ordinary person, it looks like a dangerous electrical cabinet. So that's what that is. In the back of the shop, we have the kitchen. We use this thing 3 meals a day almost. We eat breakfast, lunch, and sometimes dinner here. We do a lot of cooking in the shop here, so we have a lot of things made out of hickory, like the bar top. This board would have just been made into axe handles. And if you come in here to the kitchen, we've got the 2-inch thick maple butcher block countertops, and these came off of those workbenches that you've seen around the shop. These are just spare tops that went on top of those workbenches, and they've been repurposed into our kitchen countertops. And it's pretty cool because you can see all of the wear marks where they've been used over the years. So now I would like to invite you to come up and check out the mezzanine storage area. This is where we keep some tools which we're not using right now and going to use in the future, or materials, spare materials and stuff like that. Sometimes you just want to come up here and hang out on this couch and look at everything too. So up here we've got this big horizontal belt grinder that I need to fix up and we're going to use because it's great. It just needs some adjustment with the tracking. 3,000 pound capacity hydraulic scissor lift table. We've got transformers back here because we're on 208 3-phase, but some of our machines are 480 volt. And our big air compressor, 10 horsepower Ingersoll Rand air compressors back there that powers the whole shop. And aside from that, it's just random storage and stuff, and a bed. Before we wrap this up, we're gonna go ahead and show you the 2 offices that we have in the shop. My office is the entire shop basically, so I don't get my own room to myself. But Jacob has his own office. This is where he does computer stuff and video stuff and things like that. In here is our shipping room. This is currently Edith's office. She does the shipping right now. So this is where finished inventory with sheaths that are ready to ship out will go into, and this is where we print the labels, where we box it up, and then send it out the door. It's all in here. And this is Nathan cleaning the bathroom. That pretty much concludes our shop tour. Appreciate everyone watching, and we will look forward to putting out new videos in the future so you can see those. And have a happy Halloween. See ya.